What is going on? My name is Bryce Marshall. I'm coming at you with an April 2014 ban list discussion. So, Morphing Jar and Morphing Jar number 2, they are banned. You might not understand why. They made this new card in Primal Origins coming out called Jackpot 7. And basically, if it's discarded by a card effect, if you're discarded by your opponent's card effect, you banish it. And if 3 of them get discarded that way, you win the duel. So all I had to do was creature swap a Morphing Jar and attack it, and then it would flip on your opponent's side of the field. And then if you had like 3 Jackpot 7s, you instantly win. So Konami knew what they were doing when they made Morphing Jar number 2 banned. You can look at it that way, or you can look at what were they doing, making another alternative win condition. Because we really didn't need another one. It's probably one that won't really see play though, especially since they banned pretty much the only 2 cards that would have made it good. Kind of a sacky way to do it though, so I'm kind of glad they banned it. Moving on, all this stuff you already knew. To the limited cards, those 2 were the only cards they've actually banned. This was like a continuation of the last format. They didn't change too much, but Coach Soldier Wolfbark going to 1. Now that was different than what a lot of people actually wanted. A lot of people wanted Fire Formation Tenki to go to 1 instead of a Wolfbark, but +1 Fire Fists won't see as much play. They won't be as strong, but they're still pretty strong. Coach Soldier Wolfbark is still searchable by Tenki, so basically it's like running 4 of him. You have your 3 Tenki, and then you have your Coach Soldier. That just gives you more room to get like 2 Fire Fist monsters on the field. You can make Cardinal, put your Tenkis back in your deck, you know. Happens. The Fire Fist deck's still a very strong deck, and I really believe it'll still be strong in this format. Mermail Abyss Gun to 1 doesn't really hurt them that much. Mermails are still a very prevalent deck. They will still continue to top, at my locals at least. I'm not sure if they'll be topping any regionals. I'm not sure if they have topped any regionals. I haven't really kept up. That's my fault. I'm sorry. But at my locals, Mermails are pretty prevalent, and so are Fire Fists. Rekindling to 1. Everybody pretty much wanted this. It's a really annoying card. You're like, oh yeah, I'm finally going to win the duel next turn. Your opponent's like, oh, nope, sorry, Rekindling. And you're like, oh, well, that's wonderful. I lose now. Moving on. Infernity Barrier to 1. Thank you, Konami. Infernities, I haven't seen Infernities in a while at my locals, but looking at this card, Infernity Barrier, it's really annoying. First you think, oh, well, they have to have no cards in their hand. Well, Infernities basically take 20 minutes to do their entire turn. If you have a Max C, you're God, but let's say you don't have a Max C and they took first turn, so you're just sitting there with your 5 cards, looking at them, hand shuffling, waiting for your opponent to play Infernities, obviously, to do all their synchro and special summon a million times a turn. And just in case you had something next turn, oh, Infernity Barrier, and they probably have no cards in their hand because they've used all their resources to special summon a million times. Moving on, Necroface is going to 2. Okay, I mean, whatever. Hieratic Seal of Convocation is going from 3 to 2. Trying to hold those Hieratics down, I guess. I don't want to repeat of what happened with Dragon Rulers. That was painful. And no longer Bliss is Magical Stone Activation was semi-limited. Nobody really cares about that. I haven't seen that card in mine, but if you guys have ever seen Asianized White Dragons videos, I'm sure you probably have. Notice that Primal Seed. He did a Beaver Warrior OTK where you can get Beaver Warrior to 1 billion attack points with a combination of this card, Macrocosmos, and the DNA Surgery and Limiter Removal. Yeah, but you needed to run at least 2 of it. And before it was limited, so you could not run 2 of this card in advanced format. But you could technically take Beaver Warrior OTK to advanced format to your locals and see if you can top with it. I mean, if you want to try it, go ahead. I'm not stopping you. But basically, the rundown is you have BLS on the field, and then you can activate Primal Seed to get your banished cards back. But you have Macro. Okay, you have DNA Surgeon to make this Beaver Warrior a machine. Okay, and you have a Primal Seed in the graveyard in the Banished Zone. Sorry, already. And you activate limit removal. It goes to the Banished Zone. Your Beaver Warrior attack doubles. You activate the other Primal Seed in your hand. You add the limit removal and the other Primal Seed back, and then you activate limit removal. There's a Primal Seed in your Banished Zone plus the limit removal. You just keep doing this, keep activating it, and keep activating it. And if your opponent doesn't have an attack response, I'll probably just scoop to you if you actually are doing this in a real match. But you better hope you have a Trap Stun or something. So you might as well, actually no, that would be terrible, because then DNA Search would get negated. You'd kind of be screwed with that attack response. It would be the most effective way to do it would probably be Cyber Dragon. That way you wouldn't have to. It's easy to get out 21 beat stick. You wouldn't have to be able to. You wouldn't have to use that DNA Search, because this. I've tried to do this on like Dev Pro and DN and Yu-Gi-Oh Pro. It's actually pretty hard to set up. It took me like a couple tries to get it set up correctly. But basically, this format is nothing really that new. I mean, Rekindling to 1, Infernity Barrier to 1. Hey, Eradicator's come back to 2. No, I'm kidding. No, that should never happen ever. That would be terrible. Because I used to play Dark World, and that was Eradicator at 1 is dirty enough. The only thing really that's prevalent for my local standpoint is Coach Soldier Wolfbark going to 1. And Kindling going to 1. That's about it. Everything else in my locals is just not even affected by this ban list. Because if it wasn't affected in last format, it won't be affected in this format. Because I have some Spellbook players in my locals, and that's a tough matchup for me. Because now I play Constellar, and it's just a tough matchup against Spellbooks. Because if an opponent plays it, it's playing Spellbooks or Prophecy, whatever you want to call it. You know. He's good. He or she, it's probably a guy. I mean, I'm not trying to be that way about it, but let's face it, how many girls actually play Yu-Gi-Oh? I mean, real. Anyway, if your opponent is playing Spellbook or Prophecy, whatever you want to call it, he's probably good at the game, because that deck requires a lot of thinking. You think regular Yu-Gi-Oh decks are not, I mean, I'm hesitant to say regular, because what really makes a deck regular? I mean, it doesn't really, but the Spellbook Prophecy archetype tend to require a lot more thinking than would a say Constellar even. I mean, Constellar, you make the same pretty much generic play, Pollux. Your opponent effect failures Pollux, you laugh in their face because it's a condition, and her effect failure does resolve, attempting to negate the effect that is a condition, but it still tries and it resolves and it goes to the graveyard and you look at them and you're like, and you just look at them. And you summon your Callus, and they're like, oh, we're effecting negated. And you're like, no, that's a condition. Nice try, guy. And then you make your Callus level 5, make your Pollux level 5, overlay for Pleiades, and that's you bounce cards, put M7 or Gaia Dragon on top of it. There's the infamous Constellar OTK, where you have M7 and Shark Fortress on the field. You target M7 with Shark Fortress, and then you put Gaia Dragon on top of Shark Fortress, and that's exactly 8,000 damage. So if you can get something like that off second turn, and then there's the Constellar Sack of the Century, where you top deck a Sombre late game. On turn 10, you top deck a Sombre, and you're like, oh my god, this is great. It's like right after a Full House resolution, or like a Dark Hole resolution, where your opponent only has like 2 back row, and neither of them are attack or summon responses, or maybe they are, and you have a Trap Stun face down. You're like, you activate it like the beginning of your turn. So I actually run to a point where I was like, if I summon this and they have a Solemn Warning, I can't chain Trap Stun to that for obvious reasons, because can't chain a spell speed 2 to a spell speed 3. That's not how the game works. That's how the game works, but no. You kind of just gotta let your generic plays do their work. Even if they are generic, your deck is probably still pretty strong. Dark World are pretty generic. I played them too. I'll probably be doing a Constellar and Dark World deck profile sometime in the future. Next few days, maybe. They're pretty generic. I mean, Dark World, there's a lot of ways you can get Grapha in the graveyard and get him on the field, but that's your main goal, to get this 3K beat stick on the field. Now, there's alternative ways. There's the top 8 regional build that everybody knows about, that plays main deck Skill Drain, doesn't play Tour Guide. I mean, that worked for somebody, but I prefer Tour Guide in my Dark Worlds, and I don't main deck Skill Drain. I do side deck Skill Drain. Another thing I thought about Eradicator. I know this isn't part of like the new ban list, but Eradicator is just a good card because you can use Crazy Box. Another thing about Crazy Box is if you're playing a deck where Skill Drain's going to hurt you, but you can make easy rank 4s. For example, Pollux into Callus. Pollux's effect can't be negated by Skill Drain because, as I said, it's a condition. So you could Pollux into Callus, and your opponent's like, oh, you can't make Pleiades now. And you're like, okay, I overlay for Crazy Box. It's a 3K beater, and it can attack thanks to your mighty Skill Drain. And then your opponent's like, oh no. But even if you didn't need to do that, Skill Drain is a dark monster with 2,500 or more attack. You can Eradicate her and target Skill Drain, so you can have that one space in your side deck for this to happen, for that one Chamber player. But still, Eradicator, nasty card. It's just when you resolve Eradicator, the look on your opponent's face is almost always one of like defeat. he's like, really, dude? It's kind of like resolving Full House against a Spellbook player. They're like, man, really? I actually did that, and then I lost, but it was because he had stuff. He had shenanigans, and I just couldn't. Anyway, I rambled. I'm sorry, but that's basically my take on the ban list. It's just a continuation of our last format. It's nothing really that new. I'm Bryce Marshall, and this is, I guess, Bryce Marshall's YouTube channel. I mean, I don't really have a name. I'm the nameless YouTuber. That should be my name, yes. Thank you for watching, and be sure to like this video and subscribe if you liked my content and would like to see more. Thank you very much for watching, and I will see you next time.